Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Transformative Tradition Tuesdays. And on this night, we take time to look at the traditions of the Torah, the traditions of the Jewish people, our people, and the ways of our nations as well, as we all learn to grow together. And we also take time to learn about the traditions of today. And for the entire month of April, we have moved on from Exodus, that ancient experience, to take some time to look at today's Israel. And for those of you who were with us last Tuesday night, we lit the 6 candles and read the names on the rocks in memory of all those of Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust. 1 week later, we come to a tradition of modern Israel. This took place in the early 1940s. And in 1948, Israel became a nation. And modern Israel is as much a miracle as ancient Israel. And it gives us confidence that the things that the Bible says are good for us tonight. So thank you for joining together. I am coming to you from our home, the Tucker home. The Rebbetzin and I send you our love and our greetings, and it has been a continuing joy to come from our home to your home. I believe that God has called us in this time of the stay-at-home orders to focus upon our homes. And that's why, as Rebbetzin and I and others prayed, that the best thing that we can do is show the simple faith of a home and how it works in our home as simply a suggestion so that you can go forward as well. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. On the 4th of ER, which is this very day, today and tomorrow, the 4th of ER was declared by the Israeli Knesset to be a memorial day. It reminds us of the struggle that led to the establishment of the state of Israel. And Yom Hazikaron is called the Day of Remembrance. It's the day when we remember the sacrifices that took place, the soldiers who gave their lives so that the modern state of Israel could be established. The very next day, tomorrow, will be Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Day of Independence. So it's designed so that we would remember the sacrifice and immediately go into the freedom that we have, because God understands our emotions as we move forward today. For 24 hours on Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance that we are in now, for 24 hours, everything comes to a standstill. There's the sound of a siren, and for 2 minutes, everything comes to a standstill. Even all of the vehicles on the interstates and the roads immediately stop. I encourage you to Google a search for the Day of Independence, the Day of Remembrance sirens, and there are many videos out there. There are actually 2 sirens. One happens at 8 p.m., and that's to let everybody know that the Memorial Day is coming in. And then the second siren takes place at 11 a.m. in the morning. And this is before the prayers in the military cemeteries. It's a very important and powerful time. The modern state of Israel is a miracle. God has used many people to get us to this place, and tonight I'd like for us to reflect upon some readings as we did last Tuesday night, as we go from Yom HaShoah, the great suffering, to Yom HaZikaron, the sacrifice of those who willingly offered themselves in battle, to Yom Ha'atzmaut, the freedom and the independence that we have. It's going to be a powerful study as we do this together tonight. So as we begin, there's one very important poem that's read on Yom HaZikaron. It's called The Silver Platter. This poem was written by Nathan Altman, and it was during the 1948 War of Independence. Can you imagine going from the Holocaust, all of the persecution that had been taking place then for decades, and then from 1941 to 1945, the brutal murder of 6 million Jews, 1.5 million children, not counting 6 million other people from other nations who didn't line up with Germany's agenda in that day. Can you imagine going from that kind of experience in 1945 to just a couple of years later being in a war for your very breath, a war for your very freedom? The Silver Platter is a poem that is read and we reflect upon it. And so I'd like for you to reflect as I read this. The Silver Platter by Natan Altamont. The earth grows still. The lurid sky slowly pales over smoking borders. Heartsick but still living, a people stand by to greet the uniqueness of the miracle. Readied, they wait beneath the moon, wrapped in awesome joy before the light. Then soon, a girl and a boy step forward and slowly walk before the wailing and waiting nation. In work clothes and heavy shod, they climb in stillness, wearing still the dress of battle, the grime of aching day and fired night, unwashed, weary until death, not knowing rest, but wearing youth like dewdrops in their hair. Silently the two approach and stand. Are they of the quick, the living, or of the dead? Through wondering tears the people stare. Who are you? The silent two. And they reply, we are the silver platter upon which the Jewish nation was served to you. And speaking, fall in shadow at the nation's feet. Let the rest in Israel's history books be told. There has been a great sacrifice, and these times of remembrance are important to me and my family. We relate to this very closely. My nephew, Nick, was killed in Afghanistan in 2004. So when we talk about the struggles and the pain of war and the sacrifices that have been made, that you and I, that we may have this freedom in our homes tonight, in this home, this safe, wonderful, resource-filled home. And I remember tonight, and we all remember tonight, that God has used sacrifice that we may have what we have tonight. God has always used an army. God has always used a soldier. God has always used the wounded. And it is this army, and it is this soldier, and it is these wounded ones that cause us to remember that a sacrifice has been paid, that we may have the freedom that Israel has and that we have in our own country tonight. Whatever country you may be watching from, may there be abundant freedom. The scriptures bear this out as we read our passages tonight. God has always used an army of promise. From Numbers chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, as Israel prepared for its first long time journey, it says, in the wilderness of Sinai, on the first day of the second month in the second year from the exodus from the land of Egypt, Adonai spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting, saying, do a head count of all the community of Bnei Israel by their families and their ancestral house, with a total of every male, one by one. You and Aaron are to muster by their divisions every son from 20 years and upward, available to serve in the army of Israel. One man from each tribe, each head of his father's household is to assist you. God has always used an army of promise. And since that day and to this day, God has always used a powerful army to help us forward. And we remember them tonight. We remember the sacrifices that they have made. Another thing that's read on Yom HaZikaron are letters to a fallen soldier. These again were written in the very early days of Israel's people. And they're to various Israeli soldiers. One is to the Israeli soldier who gave his life in the war of Israel's independence. And I'd like to read this letter that's read during this Yom HaZikaron. You've been gone all of these years. In fact, Israel is 72 years old this week. You've been gone 72 years, let us say, but no one has forgotten what you did, how you fought for the establishment of a Jewish state, how you stood on the front line without flinching, even though you had just emerged from the ashes of Europe, how you left behind your new wife and all your hopes for beginnings, how you sacrificed everything that you had so that Jews all across the world would always have a home to return to. There is a grave on a mountain with your name. There is a black and white photograph in a museum with your face. But there is no picture of the struggles that tore at your heart or the ideals that were embedded in your soul. Today, I remember and I thank you. What did you hear in that letter about the soldier that has brought us freedom that you want to remember? Let's meditate on that as we continue through the night. In 1948, a great freedom came to Israel. And unlike most prophetic words that some people may have, in 1948, it is not the beginning of the end of the world. It is the beginning of the world that God created us to live in. God's always used an army of promise. Secondly, God has always used a soldier who hopes. And courageous soldiers know where to put their hope and their trust. I'd like to read Psalm 33, verses 8 through 20. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke and it came to be. He commanded and it stood firm. Adonai spoils the purpose of the nations. He thwarts the plans of the people. The plan of Adonai stands forever, the purposes of his heart from generation to generation. Blessed is the nation whose God is Adonai, the people he chose for his own inheritance. Adonai looks down from heaven. He observes all humanity. From his dwelling place, he gazes on all the inhabitants of the earth. He fashions the hearts of all, who discerns all their deeds. No king is saved by his great army. No warrior is delivered by great strength. A horse is a false hope for victory, nor can its great strength save. Behold, the eyes of Adonai are on those who fear him, waiting for his love, to deliver their souls from death, and to keep them alive in hunger. Our soul waits for Adonai. He is our help and our shield. Wow. As God has always used an army, that army is made up of individual soldiers. And each soldier places our hope in the rock that is Israel. There are two more letters here that are read during this time, along with the letter that's read in the War of Independence, is to the Israeli soldier who gave his life in the Yom Kippur War. You were in synagogue when the siren sounded. You were encircled by your tallit and your prayers when the urgent call wove its way through the land. And you didn't hesitate. You didn't think twice as you put down your matzor and the promise of tomorrow. You ran to stand beside your brothers, You left behind your own sons and daughters in the home that you and your wife had spent years building together. You fought valiantly, even though you yourself did not know how much courage you had inside of you. You died so that we could live. There is a fading photograph of you in the living room. You are holding your children, all of them, 2 on your back, 1 in each arm. They have missed you every day since you left. And no one else can know the pain of those you left behind. But you have been watching them and watching us. Today, I remember and I thank you. A few years after my nephew Nick was killed in Afghanistan, there was an online memory book. And his son, who was simply a baby when Nick was killed, had now grown up to be a 7-year-old, maybe an 8-year-old. And I went to the memory book that day and I saw the entry by his son, and he said, "I wish you had never gone." We have a great freedom tonight. We have a great gift that has been handed to us on a silver platter. We have the opportunity tonight to remember that life is a gift, and our time of peace is a gift. And it's been born on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. There's another poem that I want to read at this point. To the Israeli soldier who gave his life guarding our borders. These are all being read in Israel this day. Every Friday, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom as we pass through the security checkpoint. Sometimes we brought you a drink or a falafel. You always smiled at us and waved to our children who looked up at you from the back seat. You stood there in the freezing winter rain and in the boiling hot sun. You stood there at night when the clouds hid the stars and the darkness seemed to go on forever. You stood there in the morning while most of the country slept on. You stood there and you protected us. And when you left this world, there was a deep gap in our nation. A gap where your smile could no longer be found, and your kind words etched only in our memories. A terrible gap in your parents' hearts. A grieving gap as your friends dial your number by mistake and realize that you will never answer again. You stood at the gate and you guarded your people. Tonight we guard your memory. I remember and I thank you. In 2 of those poems, what is something that stands out about these individuals? What is it that you'd like to remember about the soldiers who have brought us to this day? They're part of a miracle, you know. On the wall behind me is the Marc Chagall stained glass, replicas of the stained glass that are now in the hospital in Israel, this modern hospital. God has brought us to a great miracle, beloved, and we are here tonight to remember this. We are here tonight to take it to heart, and we are here tonight to remember that God has always used a soldier. And then finally tonight, God has always used the wounded. But he's always used a wounded who at some point trusts in God's promise, especially so. I'd like to read to you about one soldier, the soldier of a soul. In Matthew chapter 27, there was somebody named Yeshua. He is our Messiah. And he came as a wounded soldier. In fact, Isaiah chapter 53, which I've been studying this week, talks about the Messiah. And I was reading in the Talmud studies this week and in the rabbinic studies about Isaiah 53. is seen by so many as the words of the Messiah. And in the midst of that is a phrase in Isaiah 53, and it says, and he was wounded for our transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities. In Matthew chapter 27 talks about the soldier of our soul. And now from the 6th hour, darkness fell upon all the land until the 9th hour. About the 9th hour, Yeshua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those there heard it, they began saying, this man is calling for Elijah. Right away, one of them ran and took a sponge, and he filled it with sour wine, and he put it on a stick and was offering it to Yeshua to drink. But the rest were saying, leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. And Yeshua cried out again with a loud voice and gave up his spirit. Behold, the curtain of the temple was split in two from top to bottom. The earth quaked and rocks were split apart. And the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the holy ones, Kedoshim, who were sleeping, were raised to life. And coming forth out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city, and they began to appear to many others. Now the centurion, the soldier, the Roman soldier, and those with him keeping guard over Yeshua, when they saw the earthquake and what was happening, they became terribly frightened and said, this really was the Son of God. We see soldiers around us now who are bearing their wounds, and they're doing their best to rise up and live good lives. God has always used the wounded. Maybe you've been wounded in some of your battles. Let us remember that even in our woundedness, that God has an army, God has a soldier, and God takes those who are wounded and he raises them up to strength again. There's one final letter that's read on Yom Hazikaron. It's to the Israeli soldier who fought in all the other wars for our country. The wars that were named and the wars that remain nameless. Just from the years of 1948 to 1973, Israel, this little infant nation that had just come out of the Holocaust, fought 7 major wars. The reason they succeeded is because they truly believed they had no choice but to live and to fight. You spent sleepless nights in trenches and endless days in hot tanks. The world tried to push you down, but you kept getting up anyway. You gave up the best years of your life hiking through valleys of mud and running through minefields. You threw your body into the line of fire to save your comrades and fought with terrorists intent on killing us. You watched your friends die beside you and still got up to train the next day. You cried with the Jews in Gaza and begged them to forgive you, though you were not to blame. You stood before the Kotel with a Tanakh, a Bible in your arms and a prayer in your eyes. You begged for blessings, but never got to see tomorrow's dawn. You sat in jeeps in lonely deserts and woke to horizons so far from home. You faced our enemies in a generation where many don't even have the courage to face themselves. You left behind jobs and families and dreams. You were afraid, but moved forward despite the fear. You protected our homes and guarded our children. You made it possible for all of us to return home. You lived with courage and died, sanctifying God's name. The words are inadequate, but we thank you. You are remembered. You are missed today and every day. I think a sense of appreciation is growing within us as we take this time tonight to remember. But the sacrifice has a purpose. The call to Yom Hazikaron, the call to the Day of Remembrance, is to remember why all of the soldiers, the army, the soldiers, and the wounded, why they did this. They did this so we can live free. They did this so that we can be joyful. They did this so that we can celebrate. They did this so that we can wave our flags. They would be disappointed if we only continued in remembering grief. They did this so that once we remember, we would rise up and live in joy and celebration of the freedom that they have given us. There's another poem that is read as we finish this remembrance of Yom HaZikaron. It's one of the most beautiful Israeli songs, and it's really very representative of the culture of Israel and how it has grown and how it has developed. The name of the song is Haraut, the song of friendship. Haraut means friendship, fellowship, comradeship, togetherness. And it refers to us who remain brothers and sisters, fighting battles as an army, both spiritual and physical, and as individual soldiers, doing all the things that we can do so that our homes are wonderful and free and we have times of celebration. This song was written within a year after the outbreak of the Israeli War of Independence in 1948, and it remembers those. It remembers who we are and our sacrifice, our love for one another, and the love of those who came before us. And I also want to say, yes, in Israel, and also those who have enabled us to be free enough to watch this live stream tonight, or if you're watching it as an archive, watching it a little bit later. It was written by Haim Guri, and he just passed away recently in January 2018. And here is the song. An autumn night descends on the Negev and gently, gently lights up the stars. While the wind blows on the threshold, clouds go on their way. Already a year, and we almost didn't notice how the time has passed in our fields. Already a year, and few of us remain. So many are no longer among us. But we'll remember them all, the elegant, the handsome, because friendship like this will never permit our hearts to forget love sanctified with blood will once more bloom among us. Friendship, we bear you with no words. Gray, stubborn, and silent of the nights of great terror, you remained bright and lit. Friendship, as did all your youths, again in your name, we will smile and we will go forward, because friends that have fallen on their swords left your life as a monument, and we remember them all. We have come to this moment, at least in our reflection tonight, where Yom HaZikaron, the Day of Remembrance, has stopped us in our tracks. It has stopped us in our vehicles on the interstates of Israel. It has stopped us wherever we are, and from a siren helped us to remember why we have the freedom that we have today. The call of the Day of Remembrance is also the call to the Day of Freedom. We are free to live and to grow. We are free to love. The song of friendship lets us know that Once the sun goes down on this night, then a celebration begins. We are indeed free. Yom Ha'atzmaut is a day of celebration. It is a day of experiencing all the joy of the freedom. Can you imagine what great joy Israel has remembering what they have been through yesterday? And so one of the great traditions of Yom Ha'atzmaut is to call all Israel to the Psalms called the Hallel. In fact, one of the traditions is to call Israel and all the nations to join with Israel as we are doing this night. The Hallel is a series of Psalms that remind us that God is our hope. And while they're going to be read completely, every Psalm from Psalm 113 to Psalm 118 is going to be read in its fullness. I'd like for us to leave tonight with just a taste of each Psalm, a taste of praise from each of these Psalms. So that as we now move forward, as we move forward from the sacrifice, we move forward with a joy of celebration. And that's why Psalm 113 says, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the name of Adonai is to be praised. Psalm 114 says, Judah, praise, became God's sanctuary. Israel, which means struggle, became his dominion, who turned the rock into a pool, the hard rock into springs of living water. Psalm 115 says, not to us, Adonai, not to us, but to your name be the glory because of your love and faithfulness. Psalm 116 says, return to your rest once more, O my soul, for Adonai has been good to you. You have delivered my soul from death, my eyes from tears, and my feet from stumbling. Hallelujah. Psalm 117 opens up to the great vision that we are celebrating as a Messianic Jewish synagogue, bringing all nations together. Psalm 117 says, praise Adonai, all you nations, and extol him, all you people, for great is his love toward us, and his faithfulness, his emet, his truth endures throughout all generations. Baruch Hashem, praise the Lord. And then finally, Psalm 118 says, Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki leolam hasdo. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. I pray that as you experience the freedom to praise him tonight, may from sundown tonight be a complete celebration of praise because of the life that he has given to us. Celebrate with joy. Today is the Rebbitzon's birthday. We're having a pizza. I'm having a pizza delivered to that door right there. They're going to leave it outside. I'm going to take it out of the cart, put it on another dish. We're going to stay safe until we get to phase one. But this day is a day of celebrating a birthday. It's a day of joy. It's a day of life, and it's a day of laughter. We thank those who have gone on before us so that we might have this day. Would you take just a moment with me? I'm in my home. I sing this song so often, and I just want to give thanks. Let's give thanks to the Lord because he has an army, he uses soldiers, and he raises the wounded up and he heals them as we go on to this celebration tonight. We love you, Abba. Thank you for what we have in this moment. Thank you for what I have in this home. And may this overflow into every household until that day when your family is all together again. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki leolam hasdo. Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki leolam hasdo. Hodu, 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 Hodu ladonai ki tov. Hodu, 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 hodu ladonai ki tov. We give thanks to you, Lord. You are good, and your love forever endures. We give thanks to you, Lord, for you are good. Your love forever endures. We give thanks, give thanks, give thanks, give thanks. We give thanks to you, Lord, you are good. We give thanks, give thanks. We give thanks, give thanks. We give thanks to you, Lord, you are good. Amen. Thank you for joining with me tonight for the traditions of the Day of Remembrance, Yom Hazikaron. And thank you for joining with me tonight for Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Day of Independence, the day that we're free. Please let us know a part of this that stood out to you tonight. For those of you who are with us live on Facebook, please type in a comment, something that stood out to you. I would love to have that knowledge of what really stood out to you tonight. And I'll pray for every person. The Rebbe and I will pray for every person by name who joins us in our comments and who likes our celebration tonight. So thank you very much. May you celebrate your freedom. Shalom, shalom.